We'll invite the next session to come to the virtual stage where we are looking to create the ecosystem, how to enhance innovative capability and sustainability across Saudi Arabia, because of course this is a transformation moment, which sustainability the target, but innovation the vehicle, and that's really what we want to look at in this next half-hour session. Um, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our next guest, starting with Khalid Sharbatli, CEO of Desert Technologies Investments. Thank you so much. Please turn on your camera. Hayat Sindi, Ambassador for Science at UNESCO, board member of the UN Secretary General Scientific Advisory Board with the United Nations. And Fawaz El Shamari, country head of digital industries at Siemens Saudi Arabia. Siemens, another critical point in the architecture, the technology in this space needed. And of course, our session host, Osama El Suleiman, Vice President Customer Success at Microsoft Arabia. If you would all please turn on your cameras and your microphones, and we will commence this discussion. Creating an ecosystem, how to enhance innovative capability and sustainability across Saudi Arabia. I want to start again in a similar fashion that will give each of our speakers an opportunity of 2 minutes to make their opening comments. And we will commence, as we did previously, with our host of this session, which, as mentioned, was Osama El Suleiman. So please, Osama, if you would, your opening thoughts.
Thank you, Sean. Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and Ramadan Mubarak. It's a great pleasure to be here with my co-panelists, Fawaz Shemri, Khalid Sharbatli, and Dr. Hayat Sindi. As you mentioned, this session is about creating an ecosystem and how we do that, and I think for the country, for Saudi and the region to reach the ambitions that were launched by His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, it requires more than a factor. It requires an alignment of factors that include education, market, and research. I think today we've reached a point where probably everyone knows there's a buzzword, or there's a something called sustainability, called environment friendly, but I'm not sure that if you go, especially if you go to younger age people, that people know what this really means for them. So probably if that starts in the education sector, in the K-12 and universities, telling people what this really means for them, for the country, and for the world, that can start creating and paving the ecosystem and paving the mindset of people towards this ambitious goal that we have. There's a big burden that falls on the research sector, and we have esteemed organizations here in the Sidama board represented, and it's important because this is still in the beginning, and we need researchers that address technologies and that will help in achieving a more and more sustainable environment, research that is more geared towards the needs of the region, whether it's water scarcity, it's reducing the dependency or the consumption, the high consumption of traditional energy. So that's something that I think a lead that the research sector needs to take on their shoulders, but also this needs to be connected with the market, with the private and public sector, in order for it to really see the light and see the fruit, connected to the startups that will take and build on these innovations, connected to the funds that will support them and probably even bring global expertise to help them take this forward. and to create the right market and the right environment for all of that. I think the government and regulators uh, would be a supporter in creating the right environment. At Microsoft, we are two sides. We are one, a leader globally, and taking on the responsibility of being a carbon positive company, but also we are at the end an enabler. We provide the tools that help you measure and help you innovate to create a better and more innovative, sustainable environment.
Well, thank
Uh,
you. Yep.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this. Thank you for those opening thoughts and move. I mean, this is a subject in which there is that critical nexus that how to enhance innovative capability is really multiple actors and the nexus that they come together, academia, industry, and government. And with industry, we welcome Khalid Sharbatli, CEO, Desert Technologies Investments, himself an entrepreneur and innovator. Your opening thoughts on creating an ecosystem, Khalid.
Okay, so thank you so much for hosting us today. It's a pleasure to be here with my fellow panelists, and I recognize a lot of the names on the screen on the right. So I'm very happy. I'm seeing some friends. So I would like to just start with explaining the word sustainability itself, and then I'll just give a couple of minutes of my thoughts.
Okay.
So sustainability is meeting your own demands now while not compromising the future. Okay, that's the whole
Say
idea.
that again.
The definition of sustainability
Yeah.
is meeting your demand without compromising your future demand.
Right.
Okay, so it's very simple. And sustainability is a big word. We've been using it a lot. However, it really has really different formats and different types. So when we discuss sustainability in this forum, mostly we'll be discussing environmental sustainability and innovation. However, I look at sustainability also from different perspectives. Financial sustainability, are the companies, resilient enough to live through hard times? What kind of innovation we need on the financial front? And you're seeing the difference between 2008 and 2023. What happened in 2008 was not as much as what happened the past 2 years. However, it destroyed a lot of banks around the world. This year, we're being more resilient. We're seeing more fiscal responsibility. That is also part of sustainability. And we're seeing it in action today. There's a social sustainability, ESG, so governance as well, and different angles. So, to build an ecosystem, a sustainable ecosystem for the future, this requires the collaboration and the drive of three sectors. The first driver is the government sector by policy. Okay,
And
and
clearly,
in
we're seeing that
sustain.
in the kingdom. It's this the top down sort of push and facilitation is massive, and that's great because that gives the moment that gives the wind to the sails for the others.
For sure, for sure. And to be honest, around the world, even if you look at China, if you look at Europe, all the sustainability initiatives have been pushed by the government. So the government is always the forefront of the transition towards sustainability. And
Yeah,
then you
but
have the
quite
private
often you
sector.
will find industry complaining that in that government, for example, in the context of let's say carbon price, and we were just talking about carbon markets, but that the governments are not giving that clear destination for industry. And in some countries and some regions, clarity of destination is clearer than in others. And I say, while the government may be present, it's not often giving the clarity of destination.
So look, we always have ambitious goals, and there is a gap between your ambition and the reality, and that gap is innovation, right? How fast can we get to things? If you look at yesterday, Europe just scaled down on electrification of vehicles. Just yesterday, they scaled down on their goals, and the reason is it's not realistic sometimes to achieve certain goals. Because if you want to hit these targets or to move towards these goals, we are putting indicative numbers. However, some targets we would overachieve and some targets underachieve because you have the government pushing or the policy, and then you have the private sector following. You have the research and development trying to innovate. But the biggest part are the adapters of sustainability, which is the general public. So you need to change social and social behavior. In Saudi Arabia, we're looking at a very big movement, for instance, by the energy efficiency. So energy efficiency, we're seeing ads on the street telling you, please turn off your lights, please turn off your AC, please make sure that you lock your house. And this is really targeted at the behavior of people in general. So we always forget this part that, you can predict people, but to a certain extent, you really have to change behavior to achieve your targets.
They're
So
all part of that ecosystem. Let's bring
correct.
in our other speaker, Khaled, and we'll circle back to some of those points. Fawaz Al Shamari, country head of digital industries, Siemens Saudi Arabia. They're no better company to creating an ecosystem. It is itself nearly a country, Siemens, as how to enhance innovation, because I'm sure they're trying to, they do, I know for sure they're doing that, trying to do it every day. Fawaz, your opening thoughts.
Hi, Shan. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me for this panel, and it's really an honor to see all of you. Yes, it is a very important topic, and we see all the governments, all the big sectors are talking about it. And sure, in Siemens, we are taking this already very serious. And here in Saudi, we are adapting what's happening in Siemens globally to have it here in Saudi as well. In general, as mentioned by the previous panelist, it's a game which all can play in. It's not a one, let's say, player which can do all the job. And luckily here in Saudi, we see the focus from the government, and they are pushing really hard on this. And it's a clear KPI is there and big and ambitious plan for that. We as a private sector, we are participating in such plan in many ways actually. First of all, by adapting the technology which we are having globally, either in our factories or in our production, to bring it here in Saudi and adapt it here within the kingdom. Also, we are doing here nowadays is building a use cases with some of the government entities or some of the technology which hasn't been like utilized here in Saudi. We bring it here to make sure it is adapted comparing to other part of the world. Other important factor is the educational of the importance of the sustainability, like getting involved with the academia and either in their publication or research or to the even students in the schools about the importance of such thing, which is helping them, helping the environment, helping the climate and their future. Is a key player, and I see this is where we have the gap maybe here, which need more focus. The push from the government is there. The private sector is understanding this, and as you mentioned, Shan, no one is complaining. Everyone is understanding the importance of such regulation, and they are appreciating and taking it very serious. However, I would say the mass of the people and the awareness is need to be tackled in a very aggressive approach. What we see recently, for example, we have started some of the initiatives here in the government, like the Saudi Green and Riyadh Green, which is really good. But going to the public, we don't see these are implemented basically from the people. We need people to be involved. We need people to be aware and understanding the importance of such important initiatives.
Well, there's certainly a very large. I mean, when you mention the initiatives, I mean, the list is long. The scale of the activity is massive, inevitably, Khaled. And just coming back to one or two of your points, I wanted to speak to the role of partnership for advancing innovation. I mean, in particularly the sustainability space, and speak to that nexus of industry and academia, which is so critical. I mean, most uh, R&D ecosystems, industry and the sort of R&D in Silicon Valley and all of the landmark places that one might point to as being the sort of epicenter of new thinking and new innovation, But quite often in many places, I'm wanting to speak to this point, is academia is focused a lot on basic research. They want to do basic development, and in this instance, we really want to get to applied. I'm wondering, what does that partnership look like in the kingdom? What needs to happen in order to get it better aligned?
So that question is to me, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
You are still Khaled. I'm
So
sure.
yes, good. So I'll tell you what we did. Okay, so at Desert Technologies, we're very focused on electrification and smart infrastructure. And when we started, we wanted to develop the first solar energy projects. We did a partnership with an Italian company, and we managed to get 5 projects off the ground. And then I've been studying very deeply mergers and acquisitions and the roles of partnerships for the past 5 years, and I've been trying to apply it across all of our industries, whether our manufacturing, our contracting, our development, etc. And we actually did a joint venture with Siemens. That was one of my first steps, is who is the industry leader in smart infrastructure, and Siemens was definitely and still is. So we approached them, and we managed to get a joint venture together, and we're learning a lot from Siemens, and we're also showing Siemens more about the region, giving them our experience in the region. Such partnerships will skip generations of R&D and trial and error, right? So this will really push you steps into the future. So this is one part. Now, when you talk about partnerships, it could be partnerships in the private sector or in the non-government sector, or between research facilities and the private sector. So another thing I'm very focused on is really always being involved with universities and the research facilities to understand what are you working on, what is the latest technology, and then they come to us and they ask us to validate their research commercially. And once you have that interchange happening, commercializing research and commercializing what comes out of these research facilities, then you start seeing real innovation. So when the government sets the policies, we understand the direction. And then when the research and development institutes and the private sector work together, and the private sector works across boundaries and across countries with different players, that's when you see real innovation, and you see us getting much, much closer to our goals.
When you look at that, Fawaz, and just wanted to sort of take the next step in that nexus of alignment between innovation emerging from that nexus of partnership, and in this instance, Khaled mentions his company's intersection with Siemens, and industry to industry, if you like, but also the piece of the research centers. We have the great institutions of Research Development Innovation Authority, we've CAST, we've CAPSARC, and I wanted you to speak. We've got this destination of 2.5% of GDP. The government has said, listen, here is a big chunk of change that can grease the wheels of this innovation, that can create the fuel, if you like, for no better word, to get to the destination of breakthrough technologies. But that's a lot of money to spend. I've seen in other countries the inability to download that capital because the R&D infrastructure hasn't been in place to meet the available capital, if you know what I mean. I'm wondering, where do you see those two coming together in the kingdom?
Yeah, it's a fact that collaboration is the key point here, either with the private sector together, or with the government, or with the academia. In the private sector, what we do as a big giant companies, usually we deal with even small or medium companies to collaborate, because sometimes they have better reach to the market, or sometimes they without reinventing the wheel again, we have some solutions which can help or implemented somewhere in the world, which can bridge such gap. With academia also, I feel it's extremely important to collaborate between the private sector and academia, one of which is to open our doors to them, you know what I mean, to work with them on a real problem which we are facing on the industry. So their white paper and their research will be tackling the real problems which we have, not like talking about something happening somewhere else in the world, or something is not really needed at this time. collaborating between private sector and academia is a key point. And as you know, we as a Siemens and some other, usually in the big companies, we have a big R&D sectors which we develop our technology, which we collaborate with universities and colleges all over the globe, just to make sure the publication, the research is tackling the real problems which we are facing in our world.
I wanted to, Khaled, just to get your views, like we talked in the earlier session. Next steps. We saw the opening commentary earlier, and I just repeated it there. A 2040 vision of 2.5% of GDP on R&D. There's a number of other 2030, of course, is the very big next milestone for the country in terms of its transformation. But in the immediate sense, what do you think are the next steps for advancing innovation in Saudi Arabia, for tackling climate change, for coming out of, I think it was mentioned earlier that Saudi Arabia is in the top 10 of per capita footprint on carbon emissions. What do you think are the next steps for advancing the innovations in the kingdom?
So what I think, if you want to discuss what I think we should do now,
yes, that's exactly
what we should focus on now is localization of industry, and really attracting intellectual property and attracting different companies to come here and localize their production for the Middle East and African market. So,
and do you think that's particular for the climate challenge, that localization
100%,
is
100%, because
not Siemens coming in with solution from X country and bringing it to the ground?
No, so if you localize these technologies and you build enough facilities, we are in the perfect place to be an exporter to the world, especially to Africa and Asia. And these markets do require lots of not just equipment, but solutions. Because if you look at the sustainable development goals,
and capital, of course.
But hundreds of billions of dollars are being spent in Africa, okay? And we're right across the sea. So if we localize manufacturing here and focus on our market, on the African market for sustainability, so I'm talking about solar panel manufacturing, wind manufacturing, battery manufacturing, EV manufacturing, EV infrastructure, all the smart infrastructure related that we can localize immediately. And we have been doing that. We will take a big market share, and we will build the right foundation and ecosystem to start innovating, because there are a lot of innovations around the world that have not reached their full commercial potential yet. They need mass industrialization, and China is a leader on that front. Europe is really lagging. They're falling behind. The US is trying to pick up, but we are in a perfect place to take a big chunk of that market, and that's what this technology is trying to do.
Well, I would like to obviously give Khaled the chance, or Fawaz, the chance to also sort of his closing thoughts and sort of addressing that point, because of course, as we say, Siemens is a very, very big actor in the global solution space here. And also, we just had the president of China visiting the kingdom last year, in which some of these ideas were committed to, I think, bringing that manufacturing muscle for renewable sector onto the ground in the kingdom.
Yeah, actually, what's next is I feel we are moving in the right direction. The push and the awareness is there already. However, what I'm thinking is that a clear KPI from the government is needed. Getting more awareness to the mass of the people is also needed. Going lower level for the university students and to the schools students is a key people, especially in Saudi, where we are a youth country and youth nation. Those, I think, will help in like thinking out of the box, getting a new idea for us by having a hackathon or something like that, or even by participating in the sustainability in their daily life and so on. These are, I feel, the real next steps for us.
Well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, Dr. Hayat Sindhi had to cancel last minute to join us with something that had come up on her schedule. So I'm going to go back to Osama Al Suleiman and ask him to wrap up this session with his closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, Khalid and Fawaz, for the great informative discussion. I think if I want to highlight what I got from this is one, on the wider scale, it's a social behavior thing that we need to do, as Khalid mentioned. Probably on the government side, it's led by the energy efficiency organization, and two main last points: the importance of targeted, if I may call it, research by academia to address the real challenges that we have, research that is targeted to pains that the market sees, and the importance of localization. And I, as a Saudi, I hope more and more of that would happen. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will engage with Haya to get her insights to share for the white paper report coming out of this session, and so her contributions will be captured. But we'll wrap up this session. Thank you so much. We're looking at creating an ecosystem. Khalid El Sharbati, CEO of Desert Technologies Investments, thank you for your time. Fawaz Al Shamari, country head of digital industries at Siemens Saudi Arabia, really appreciate your insights. And of course, our host, Osama Al Suleiman, thank you very much.